it's Helen from Journal with Purpose and welcome to my latest Journal with Me video. I'm going to be using a standard size traveller's notebook insert with Tomo River paper, which I keep inside this vintage-like cover from Start Bay Notebooks. I had a lot of fun creating these pages, so I really hope that you enjoy the video and I really hope that you're doing well too. The first thing that I'm going to do is put my underlay board underneath my left-hand page, and that's because I've got lots of bumpy and bulky things under there now, and it just helps to keep it a little flatter. I'm going to be using some of these watercolour paints from London Gifties, and I'll be using an Escoda travel brush. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that I've really enjoyed using watercolour paint to create a kind of washi tape looking strip along my page. And I've only done that in my bullet journal so far, so I thought it would be really nice to do it in my traveller's notebook too. I've started off by mixing lots of this pale brown colour, and I've added lots of water to it because I want it to be a really wet wash, because I'm going to be dripping some other colours into it. So I've worked as quickly as I can to make sure I've got that strip down the left hand side, but that it's still really nice and wet. I'm now moving on to using some other colours, so I'm starting off with a deeper brown, and I'm just dropping that into the pale brown paint and letting it kind of blend in with the water and all mix in together. I'm now adding a deep, almost rusty red looking colour to my page, and again I'm just dropping those colours onto the wet paint. And because I want the colours all to run together, I'm just really gently tilting my book and just letting them kind of run down the page, and it creates a lovely, almost marble look to it. The next thing I'm doing is looking through these Tim Holtz Ideology papers. I've had these scrapbooking pads for a long time now, and I often dip into them because there's so many lovely designs. So I'm just having a look through for the pages that I want to use and tearing those out. I'm going to be using some dies from my everyday journaling product range because I want to create a pocket and tag on my page. And I knew that I had two dies in this set that would work really well for the Traveller's Notebook pages. So those are the two dies that I'm going to use. To start off with, I'm going to cut just loosely around the shape of the dies to make sure that I can fit both of them onto the cutting plate at the same time. And I've picked these two different papers that I think go really well together. To cut the dies out, I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot die cutting machine. And again, I've had this for absolutely years, so you're going to see how beaten up my cutting plates are. But I'm putting the dies on top of the paper with one perspex sheet underneath, and I'm then going to put another one on top. And you can see what I mean by they're a bit curved with lots of scratches on them. I'm then turning the handle on the machine to work those dies all the way through, so that I have the really nice cut shapes at the end. Now that those shapes are cut out, I'm going to just simply pop them out of the scrapbooking card. And one of the things that I like to do if I've got a little bit of spare time in the evening or at the weekend is to get out lots of different dies and scrapbooking paper and cut lots of shapes out. And then I keep them all in an envelope or wallet by my desk so that they're all there ready cut out when I want to use them. So that's my pocket and tag now cut out. And on this pocket die, it leaves a small crease where you need to fold them over. So I'm just going to use a bone tool to make sure that I've got a really crisp fold on that pocket so that I know it's going to sit quite nice and flat on my page. I've got this lovely ball of ribbon that Christine from London Gifty sent me. And I'm going to use that to feed it through the hole on the tag. I'm just checking that I'm happy with where I want that pocket and tag to go. And then I'm going to add some decoration to the background before sticking it down. And for this, I'm going to be using a Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous stencil. And I'm going to use Distress Oxide in Antique Linen and Vintage Photo. And again, this is a really old stencil, so if I can find it or something similar to it, I will definitely leave it linked down below. So I'm using this ink blending tool and I'm going to press that ink through the stencil. I'm going to use the antique linen all over before then adding some of the vintage photo colour. And Distress Oxide inks are really good because they don't tend to bleed through your pages at all. The regular distress ink certainly can, but I find if I just add a little bit of it on top of the Distress Oxide, I don't tend to have any problems at all. So you can see now I've got the antique linen cover covering all of the page, and I'm just going to dab a little bit of that darker brown on top. I'm really happy with how that background is looking now, and it's tying in really nicely with the watercolour paint that I used. So I'm now going to glue down that pocket, and for this I'm just using a really cheap craft PVA glue. And I'm using an old paintbrush and dabbing that along those tabs that I folded over on the pocket. And I'm then going to press that down firmly on the bottom of my page. And again, I'm going to use that bone folding tool to just run it along the edges to make sure that it's nice and flat. I'm now dabbing some PVA glue on top of my pocket because I'm going to add some gold flakes on top. And these Nouveau Gilding Flakes are so much fun, but they're also really messy. I'm trying to gently undo that lid because I know from experience how far these flakes travel. I'm just going to dab those on top of that glue, and then I'll go back with the glue again over the top. And this PVA glue will dry nice and clear so you won't be able to see it at all. So this is a messy job, and I definitely ended up covered in glue and gold flakes, but I really like how it looked. I've seen some other people do amazing things with these gilding flakes on top of lettering and illustrations. I don't think I've got quite the precision for that yet, but I do love adding them to the top of projects just for a little bit of fun decoration. So I'm gently moving those gilding flakes around with the glue and then just adding a little more over the top to make sure that it's nicely sealed. And once that glue dries, the gold will really start to shine properly again. Next, I'm going to use some Distress Spray Stain in Tarnished Brass, and I'm going to drip that over my page. I have this thing where if I use one colour on one page, I like to add at least a little bit of it on the other side. So I'm just going to add some really gentle small droplets. I'm now just deciding which way round I want my tag to go, and I think I prefer that lighter colour because it contrasts a little more with the colour on the pocket. And I'm going to add some quick journal writing to it using a Staedtler pigment liner. One thing I'm trying to do alongside each of my YouTube videos is create a step-by-step blog post. So if that is something you're interested in, I'll leave the link to my blog down below. You may have seen on one of my recent videos that I was sent a Polyprint thermal printer to try out. And I absolutely love it. I'd printed out lots of these different quotes and images, and I decided I would include one on my page. And if you are interested in trying out that printer, I've got a 15% discount code, which again I'll also leave linked in the description box. I really liked that quote that says, "Enjoy the journey." And if you do have one of those printers, Polyprint have got a fantastic Pinterest board where they've got lots of images saved that they know will print out really well, and that's where quite a few of those images came from. I'm now going to add some transfer stickers, and these came from London Gifties. So I'm just going to cut out the images that I know I want to use. And you then peel the backing off and rub them onto your page using a wooden stick. I really love using these because they're transparent, they completely disappear. Any kind of marks that are underneath on your page will show through, so it looks like they were already printed there. I'm just checking where I want them. I'm going to use them to break up that left-hand page a little bit. As you can see there, I've rubbed it on with the stick and they transfer really easily. I've got a really nice selection of these stickers, and I thought that these really gentle florals matched in so nicely with the page. So I've added 3 to the left hand page, and I'm also going to add some along the top right as well. I was recently able to take a few days off work, which is the first time I've been able to do that since Christmas, and it was long overdue and so needed. It was lovely because I spent a little bit of time going through some of my craft supplies, and that gave me loads of ideas. I found the gilding flakes, some of my old Tim Holtz stencils, papers, and it's just been so nice to dig everything back out again and have a play with them. I'm now adding one larger floral element onto the pocket. The next thing I'm going to do is use this Midori brass stencil to add the date along the top of my page. And again, I'm going to use the Staedtler pigment liner because I find that this doesn't smudge. This stencil is a little bit fiddly, but I really like the look of it. I seem to have trouble managing to line all of the numbers up precisely, but I don't mind too much. It gives a kind of quirky look to the date. I then decided to add another transfer sticker just because I had that gap on the right hand side where I hadn't really balanced out where the date was going to be. And I'm now adding a sticker from Aurora's Heart along the bottom right hand corner of that pocket. The next thing I'm going to do is add some lettering. And I'm using this Pilot Irush Izuku ink in Taki Sumi, which I think is described as a charcoal colour, but it's a lovely deep black colour. And I'm using a Browse nib holder with a Nico G nib. And this is one of my favourite nibs to use for lettering. I had an email through my blog in the week asking for tips on using these types of pens, and I don't consider myself an expert at all, but one thing I have learned is that the paper that you use is absolutely critical, because when I first started using it, the ink would bleed out everywhere and I thought that I was doing it wrong, but it's just because the paper was absorbing too much of the ink. And it works really well on Tomoe River paper, and also Rhodia paper is great for practicing with these types of inks and pens. Another thing I do when I'm writing with the nib holder is I take it really slowly, and I find that helps me to just have a little bit more control over the ink flow and the pen. So I've just lettered out the words, sometimes rest is all you need. And I'm now going to move on to adding my journal writing, and for this I'm using a black Muji gel pen. In my journal I'm writing about how much it meant to me to have that time off work. I mean, work's just been crazy busy for me, but I think I also have to take some of the responsibility. I have lots of things I always want to do, so I say yes to far too many things and plan in projects that I personally want to work on. And of course, over time, that starts to take its toll. And before I took the break, I had things that I'd been struggling with, trying to come up with solutions. And of course, as soon as I stopped thinking about those things and took some time away from it all, those answers have become really clear to me now. So I'm using these pages as a reminder to myself of just how important that rest is, and actually how much more productive and creative it makes you once you've taken that time out for yourself. I really hope that you've enjoyed watching this video and seeing how I've used some of the different supplies. And as always, I'll leave links to either the products or the closest things that I can find to them in the description box, just in case there's anything there that you fancy trying out. I really hope that you're doing okay and that August treats us all a little more kindly. If you did enjoy the video, it would be great if you'd leave it with a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. If you've got any questions or comments, please do just pop them down below. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I look forward to talking with you really soon in the next one.